I'm the only Navy SEAL French Foreign Legionnaire, at least in modern times. I heard some rumors there might have been an old school Master Chief in like the Vietnam era, but other than that, I haven't heard of anybody. And why that happened was I was at SEAL Team 7, was a sniper, JTAC, advent-laden specialist. During that time though, I started to get a little loose, started to party a little too hard, do a little whatever, and I always tell people, man, if you aren't taking care of the things that matter to you, you're gonna lose them.
So you show up in Paris, you go to the Legion, and you literally knock on a big metal gate.
It's a trippy thing for people that don't understand what it actually is. There's no application. There's no calling ahead. There's no figuring out. They have a website where you kind of figure out what to bring. You literally go knock on this big iron gate and then they tell you, get up on the pole bar or get in here and give me your passport.
We're talking about kind of how fast time flies. And a lot of people underestimate that. And they think that they can just sit and do the same thing that they're doing and eventually something's going to change, but it's not.
Nothing will. If you want things to stay the same, then stay the same.
Taylor fucking Cavanaugh.
What's up, man?
What's up, dude?
Chilling.
Dude, thank you so much for coming down. For the people that don't know you, that don't know you were a Navy SEAL, that don't know that you were part of the French Foreign Legion, that don't know your crazy life story, tell them a little bit about you.
Yeah, I'll give you a little 30,000 foot. Well, as far as you know, verifiable, I'm the only Navy SEAL French Foreign Legionnaire, at least in modern times. I heard some rumors there might have been an old school Master Chief in like the Vietnam era. Probably was a badass mofo. I'd love to talk to him. But other than that, I haven't heard of anybody. And why that happened was I was at SEAL Team 7, about 7 years, and had some good deployments there. Iraq, Yemen, was a sniper, JTAC, advent-laden specialist. And during that time, though, I started to get a little loose, right? Started to party a little too hard, do a little whatever. And I always tell people, man, if you aren't taking care of the things that matter to you, you're going to lose them, you know? And that's what happened to me. You know, we talked a little bit of Kevin offline about those signs from the universe. And I had those signs and they were small at first, like they start, and then they got bigger and bigger and bigger. And at some point they're so big, you bury yourself. Right. And that's what happened to me is I got a couple arrests. And then on, the second one was kind of the nail in the coffin. And I got, tested for performance enhancing drugs by Big Navy JAG. And that was it. So, and that's a zero tolerance thing. If people don't know about it, is performance enhancing drugs in the military. Yeah. And so guess what? I took a general discharge, had to go to jail in Idaho, a different state, and cover some things up. And then I was walking out, losing my whole dream, and then moving into the civilian world. And so that's kind of where the story kind of starts, is losing that lack of purpose, losing my whole dream. What was I going to do? And then did pretty good for a couple years, and then kind of, like we talked about, was stacking even more bad habits, hadn't learned yet. And then I looked around one day and I had lost everything. I was homeless, in my truck, suicidal, with a sawed-off shotgun on my lap, going, oh, this is how it happens, right? This is, you blink and then you wake up and you have nothing left. And I sat with that for a while, and then to get right, I decided that going to the French Foreign Legion was what I was going to do, and that's what I did. So one thing that I know a lot of people are probably thinking is, what the hell is the French Foreign Legion? I know people have heard of it, but I don't think people really know what it is. So what is it? Yeah, so that's actually it's a good question, because I take it for granted, because I had learned a little bit about just being in the military world even as a child, trying to learn about stuff. I knew about it. But the French Foreign Legion is a fascinatingly unique institution. It's about 200 years old, in France, started by an old king to funnel foreigners who are causing troubles in bars and whatever, no purpose, get them back onto the battlefield, serving for France with the carrot of French citizenship if they served their time correctly. Now, it was beneficial for the king also, because there was no political pressure of having foreigners come back in body bags. Right. So, and it was also formed similar to the old Roman legions, where they would do their 17 years and get Roman citizenship, things like that. That's 17 years. Yeah, back in the back, the Roman legions were 17 years, man, and hard living too. Those dudes were humping some serious weight. Back, like, how long ago? Rome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like year one.
When you think about that, right? You go in probably like 15 years old then, and you die at like 35, 40. Yeah. So 17 years is just crazy.
Those dudes are hard, man. Dude, some of the documentaries on that, if people don't know about it, those Roman legions were serious, man. Yeah. What they were doing daily as far as physical activity and training was crazy. Those shields were heavy as shit.
Yeah.
They were marching and they were doing it in fucking sandals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Crazy, man. Yeah, some 300 shit, kicking people in pits,
Man, dude, and so the French Legion they fought in every single war since 1800s.
Right.
All the way up to Afghanistan, from Algeria to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Every single war. And it's fluctuated, the numbers. Right now it's about 7,500 guys.
Wow.
Worldwide.
Yeah.
And they're scattered around through different, you got French imperialism was strong. So they're all over.
So the French Foreign Legion is kind of like that friend that you bring to a bar who's always going to fight somebody.
Yeah, man, dude. And there's bars in also, just specifically speaking to that won't even allow legionnaires in.
Yeah.
So they're like, nope, not having. So it's South France. You usually try to hide the fact that you're in the Legion, but the haircut usually gives it away because they're like high and tight, like Marine look.
Right.
They're super strict about the hair.
And they know.
Yeah, they're like, kick rocks, bro.
Yeah, that's funny. So okay, so let's start from the beginning. Where'd you grow up? You grew up in San Diego?
I grew up right here, man.
Yeah.
I grew up right here, right up the street in Serra Mesa, specifically, kind of right in the middle of San Diego. And man, I love growing up here, right? I was just like every family, we had our problems, but as far as living and growing up, I really feel like I was really blessed being able to be exposed to sports year round and supported by my, mom and dad in whatever I wanted to do in that capacity. So that my sister and I.
Right. Mm. Yeah. And then, so you went to high school in Poway?
Poway, yep.
Okay.
So we moved to, it was a little bit more of a kind of a rough area where I had grown up back during that time in the late 80s, early 90s. It was a little bit different than it is now.
Well, San Diego was really violent in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, it was a different place. I mean, where we live wasn't bad, but the high school and the middle schools and stuff that we would go to was sketchy.
Right.
And my parents broke up for good, and then we went to a little bit more affluent area in Poway, which was a better sports, better school, and all that was better.
Right. Yeah. Would you say your childhood was good, rough? I mean, you're living in San Diego, so
I think it was great.
Okay.
I think it was great, man. Just watching Mighty Ducks and get strapped up and go play roller hockey in the street. I really sincerely think I grew up like blessed, going to the beach in the summers and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I had a great run.
Yeah, I envy you because I lived in cold, miserable places. Boston, Alaska, Wisconsin, Montana. Like,
dude, you were trimming that upper Arctic circle, man.
I know, but we actually almost moved to San Diego when I was really young, and my dad didn't take the job that he thought he was going to get, and it was always like, oh man, I would literally sit and watch the Travel Channel and just like basically like ads for resorts and stuff, and I just sit there and drool like watching this stuff.
What was what was living in Alaska like?
Terrible, bro. I fucking hate.
Where were you?
I was in Palmer. It's a little tiny town northeast of Anchorage.
Okay.
Like an hour, 45 minutes away from Anchorage. So small town, dark, cold.
Yeah, you didn't like it? How old were you there?
Bro. We moved to Alaska when I was like 8, and then we left when I was like 14.
Oh, so you actually had a pretty good run there.
Big chunk of my life was there.
That wasn't your jam, though.
I hated it, bro. I still, to this day, bro. I go up there because my brother's there. I got nephews there and friends and stuff. But for me, I needed sunlight. I didn't realize how bad it was. Like, imagine if you were like in this studio 24/7 with no natural light, Like, I just remember just being like, man, like, why did I have to grow up here? There was this TV show, can't remember what it is, but the kids, it's like a cartoon. These kids live in like Orange County or like Huntington Beach or something, and they're rollerblading around, they're skateboarding. And I just remember watching that, just being like, why the fuck am I here? You know what I mean? And we got to do cool stuff. Like, when I was a little kid, like, I could live off the land if I really needed to, like hunt, fish, hike. I mean, we really played outside, friends had like snow machines or snowmobiles and ATVs and, so I had a good childhood, but when you're surrounded by darkness for a majority of the year, and then the opposite side during summer when it's light out all the time, it just throws something off in your brain. And I think my brain just needed something consistent and sunny. So,
dude, the sunlight for me it's almost a non-negotiable thing, man.
Yeah.
Dude, I have a like really, really strong affinity for sun. Like even I talk to my girlfriend, like, it's like, oh, maybe we'll move. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
You understand everything I want to do is outside with my shirt off.
Yeah.
Right. Everything. I don't want to be in, I can deal with a little cold, but the sunlight, man, it really starts to affect my mental health, dude.
Yes.
Like bad. Call me sensitive or whatever, bro. I really, since I need sunlight consistently for me to be, pretty stoked on life.
Yeah.
I need it.
I know. I was talking to my dad recently and he's asking, I mean, this conversation was maybe like a year ago, but he asked me like, hey, so you like seem to really love San Diego. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what it is. Like, I'm peaceful here. I'm calm. I love it here. He's like, yeah, you're literally in paradise. Like the sun, you're getting sun in your eyes every day, and growing up, I didn't have that.
Yeah.
Growing up, it was like, you wake up, it's completely dark. You get on the bus, you go to school. By the time lunch rolls around, it's light out. And then by the time you're going home, it's dark again. Like, dude, that shit gets to you. You know?
I ain't getting down with that, bro.
Yeah, no.
No.
So I moved out here and I was like, you know what? I left Boston, came out here, packed all my shit in my car, moved out here and was like, I'm going to do like a year out here. And if it doesn't work out, I can always go back to Boston, And I'm still here. So.
Dude, those power moves are impressive. Those moves that, people watching this talk about decisive action.
Yeah.
It's one of my biggest notes that I hit consistently is decisive, deliberate action.
Mm-hmm.
Packing your car up and moving.
Yeah.
People need to grab their nuts and take control of their life.
Yeah.
Man, most people know what decisions they need to make, but they're tough. They're like, they don't want to make those power moves for fear. Fear of it not
what? Failing?
Fear of it not working out, fear of change.
Yeah.
Fear of all those things, that bridge that's constructed of all those things of brick by brick of fears, past, whatever.
Yeah.
You to do anything, you have to walk into that, walk across it, pack your car up and go.
Right.
You can do anything you want.
Yeah.
Most people just don't understand, man. You can literally pack your shit up and leave.
Yeah.
If you don't like where you're at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think for me, it was easier because I moved around a lot as a kid, right? So I had to make friends everywhere, went from different place to different place a lot, right? And so I think for me, moving around was kind of easy because I'd done it my whole life. I went to like 8 different schools growing up, maybe more actually. And, bouncing around just kind of felt natural to me. So when shit wasn't going right, I'm like, hey, I know if I have a geographic change, I'm going to change. Like, I was in Medford, Oregon, and then I got dumped by this girl. My life was literally at rock bottom. I was like, fuck this. I'm moving back to Boston.
Yeah.
Called my aunt. 2 weeks later, I was there. I didn't have anything there. So why not? Like you can always go back to where you came from.
Yeah, you can always go back.
Yeah, and it's funny. We were talking about kind of how fast time flies, and a lot of people underestimate that, and they think that they can just sit and do the same thing that they're doing and eventually something's going to change, but it's not.
No.
If you don't make a fucking change, it's not going to change.
Nothing will. If you want things to stay the same, then stay the same.
Yeah, right.
And that's a simple question. I ask people a lot. They're like, hey, I go, are you content? Most people will be like, no. Well, I'm like, well,
yeah.
I think you have your answer.
Yeah.
Right? Like nothing, absolutely that level of not being content is going to stay exactly the same if you stay in the same fucking place, doing the same thing, talking to the same people, making the same decisions. Like start changing. Maybe you don't have to move your location, but it does help.
Right. For sure. So when you were young, did you always want to be a Navy SEAL? Did you always want to go in the military?
Man,
what was
7 years old.
Yeah.
Man, I was standing on a hill in Point Loma when I know the exact moment.
Yeah.
Right. October 1992, man. I was 7 and I saw glow lights in the bay and I asked my dad, boom. That was like, from that moment on, I was Men with Green Faces, every documentary I could get. Blockbuster with the VHS tapes, dude. I was all up in that, trying to just learn what I could. And it wasn't like a romantic notion. I've said this before, but it wasn't Rambo. I understood that it was like a dirty, hard, grimy job.
Yeah.
And I understood that from a very early age. I don't know why. I was fascinated with the man behind the gun. Like I was really fascinated by like, who is that guy crawling through the jungle?
Right.
How the fuck did he end up there? And then, so when I started to figure out that you could actually like have that as a job, it got planted in me, man.
Huh. Do you believe in destiny? Like,
yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because knowing your story, and we'll get into it, but knowing your story, it seemed like everything leading to that point, there was always these roadblocks where you're like, how is this going to happen? It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And just things would work out.
I get the chills, man. I'm
getting goosebumps right now.
I'm a very strong believer in destiny. And I have a homie named Jimmy Watson. He says he's done a lot of stuff in his life. And he said, man, the man who doesn't believe in destiny doesn't have one.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, that's heavy, because if you really don't believe that you're on some divine path, on your divine design, guess what? You don't have one, bro, because you have no idea where you're going.
Right.
Right. And so paying attention to the signs, right? Paying attention to, and sometimes what we think we want isn't really what's meant for us. And, when I was having my trouble getting into the military after I had, during the same ages like we had, early 20s, being in and out of jail, it was difficult for me to get in the military.
Yeah. Because of MEPS or?
Because of MEPS, yeah. And just all the branches were like, dude, you're just checkered.
Yeah.
And it was me trying to get in the Marine Corps and them turning me down, and then the Army turning me down. And it was actually, I had no other option than what I actually wanted to do, but was scared to try.
Yeah.
And so,
but
what do you know?
It's
Destiny.
Shit like that.
Yeah,
it's
it was like
it's like you had no other option because this is where it's like you're being steered.
It gives me the absolute chills, bro, because there was absolutely no reason I should have ever got into the military with what I had in my background. Like it was just so many interviews I had to do with federal investigators, like hours and hours in closets of them blasting me and like, you're never getting in, dude. Like you're never getting. And I was like,
because you have to get a top secret clearance.
I had to well, you don't need a top secret in the SEAL teams. You need a secret to get through. But I ended up getting a top secret, TSSCI, the highest level of clearance level you can have. Yeah. And for the most part. Yeah. Right? And man, I did interviews and all this shit, man. And they, it was what it was, but I really truly know it was destiny for me to actually have gone into that.
Right. Yeah. I've always wondered about that because it's funny how the signs that come along the way that maybe you ignore for a long time and then they get stronger and stronger and stronger. So like for me getting sober, I always kind of knew that I would be sober, but I really had no reason to until I had to get sober. Yeah. Right? But all those signs along the way, it was like these little nudges from the universe or from God or whatever, where I was like, man, after a while, it's like, follow the formula. Things are getting worse and they're going to continue to get worse.
Damn, that's heavy. Man, things do get worse, bro. And you got that. Wasn't even a nudge. Blasted.
Yeah,
blasted.
I got.
Those are those rough wake ups, man. I have a whole beat about those rough wake ups, and like, bro, you don't got to put yourself through those, man. Those rough wake ups where you're like, damage control, feeling shame and regret, which are the worst emotions ever. And I've been there, and I just don't ever want to do that stuff again. And it's like the worst emotions I've ever had have been from drinking and doing dumb shit. Yeah. There's just no fucking way around it, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's as simply said as I could say it.
Yeah, dude. When I was up to the point of right before I got sober, every single day I was waking up with that, you wake up with fear. What the fuck did I do last night? Why is my jaw hurt? And I got punched in the face by somebody. I don't remember where. Why are my knuckles all fucked up? Like what happened? Where's my money? Yeah. Oh shit, I got to be at work. I'm late, you know? Or worse, I'm in jail. I don't know what I did. It's like, I don't know how long you can continue to do that and not see that things aren't going to work out. But this leads me back to what we talked about earlier, which is some of the programming that happens in our brain, right? The neural pathways, whether it's food, whether it's committing crimes, whether it's drinking or doing drugs, people are hardwired to follow a certain routine, right? So what do you have to say about that sort of hardwiring of routines and neural pathways?
Man, well, if what you're doing isn't working, it needs to get rewired. I think of it like roads being run, right? Your roads in your brain get run down to the dirt, and you have these old school roads. I mean, this is the way I've been driving this entire time. Well, if that's not working, then we need to start rewiring. And how do I go about that? That's like, I'm all about application. Right. How do you do it? Well, you have to restructure your entire day. You have to restructure your entire day. And it generally, I always tell them the answers are usually found where we don't want to look. It's usually early as fuck in the morning.
Yeah.
You got to get up early as shit. And I tell people, man, get up at 3:33, man, but I don't start people with that.
Right.
I usually tell them 4, man. I say 4. Why? It's an uncomfortable enough hour to where people will start leaning into that purpose more.
Right.
Right. And they'll start, and there's a lot of literature from Musashi to Greek philosophers that talk about that hour of the gods, 3 to 4, right? Hour of the tiger, 3:30 in the morning, man, is the most aligned with his purpose.
Right.
You have these, there is a reason that shit's in place. And I've found it to be very true for me also. When I'm up that early, better things start to happen in my life. My day structure is better. I go to, and it also sets my night up the night before because I'm going to bed earlier. I'm structured more. I have also more time to get shit done when nobody's bothering me. It's just all these simple things exponentially improve your life.
Compound effect
To the max, especially if you're doing them every day, all the time.
Right.
So I tell people, especially guys that are like needing to strategize and project out. I was like, dude, you need time in quiet to do that.
Yeah.
And guess what? You have certain things just personally you need to get set in the morning, man. You got to get centered. You can drink some coffee, do all this. Get all that done. Stretch a little bit, move, visualize. Not hours, but man, 30, 45 minutes. Do it. And then do it on repeat, right? That habitual construction that we talk about, that guys we know talk about. That's absolutely true.
Right.
And people don't want to do it because it's uncomfortable. And I go, well, that's probably where you got to start looking. And when dudes do it, that's where I think the rewiring happens the most, is that early hour in the morning, just because you're too distracted in the middle of the day, man. You can't rewire yourself when you're just got shit pulling you on the day.
Well, and your phone too, right? The phone is like just crazy because not only does it take your focus and your attention, but it gives you these easy, simple dopamine hits throughout the day. Mm-hmm. So people are so focused, and I find myself and just everybody kind of sliding in this direction of we are so impacted and everybody wants easy, right? Mm-hmm. I need to go somewhere. I call an Uber, right? I want food. I can DoorDash it here. Porn, right? All this stuff is just right there, and there's no need for hard work anymore. Yeah. What's going to happen when the grid goes down? What are people going to do?
Man, you nailed it on that. That's one piece I didn't even talk about. Deliberately not touching your phone, man. I don't touch my phone any day in the morning for like the first hour. Yeah. I don't touch it, man, because I started doing that probably maybe 2 years ago, and holy shit, it just worked out better. So I just always do that, because the minute you start looking at your dude, you're sucked into the matrix. You're gone. Yep. Like you can't. You're not reflecting on self. You're not doing any of that stuff, because now you're immediately sucked in, and that pulls hours away from you.
Right. Yeah. It's again, like with the instant dopamine, it's hard for people to give that up, but maybe starting with like the hour when you wake up and the hour before you go to bed, no phone.
And somebody
you'll sleep better too.
Yeah. Somebody asked me, I did a talk in Louisiana maybe a couple weeks ago. And somebody asked me about, how do you not touch your phone if you're like into content and sales and all this stuff? And I go, we can fucking wait. Yeah. It can wait. Right. There's just me getting right is the first important thing, because everything falls apart when I'm not right. Mm-hmm. Even when I'm not really locked the fuck on. Right. I notice just things start to slip, whatever. So that must be the most important thing. Right. And so and it's not always perfect, right? Some days are, it's not always the perfect amount of like, but man, I try to hit those wickets every morning, man. And I definitely don't look at my phone, man. Yeah. I can look after. I'll make the sale after. I'll check the content after. I don't need to reply right now, man, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's a weird time that we're living in, because this happened fast. You think 15, 20 years ago, cell phones weren't even a thing. I mean, not everybody was sucked into their phone, and social media sure has kind of changed things. So I want to kind of go back to when you became a SEAL, right? Yep. You get into the Navy finally, you go to BUD/S. How does that all work out? So I went in, it took me about 8 or 9 months to actually get my SEAL contract from the from the streets. And that was just letters of recommendation, talking to the right people, getting in the right groups, getting in a way better shape, and just testing every week.
Yeah.
Formally.
Well, you had a mentor, right?
Yeah. Well, there was a program called it was like with Naval Special Warfare. It was like a guy who owned a triangle of territory, which was Vegas, LA, and San Diego. And he would, cycle through, but run workouts and just kind of, be involved in that. And there was groups of guys in each city. And so that's all I did, man. And I needed to get in better shape. It just pushed me harder than I would have ever pushed myself.
Right.
Running wise, for sure. It's just hard for anybody, dude. Try pushing yourself till you puke every day. It's like almost impossible. Unless you're like a psychopath, it's hard to do that. But I needed it. I needed that type of pushing. And I really know it helped me because it helped with my bone density. I never even got injured in buds or seals or nothing. Never. I had never had any injuries, and I know it was because of doing half-mile sprints and all this shit and swimming and just absolutely just pounding my body.
Yeah.
It just strengthened me up, man. And so then I got my SEAL contract, shipped out in February 2010. Then I hit a great stride of timing in the Naval Special Warfare pipeline where I went to, boot camp, special warfare, buds prep, passed everything, got picked up in buds 284. And then SQT 284 all the way through, never had injuries or failures or nothing. And so I just did it in about as fast as you can do it.
How many guys don't get injured?
Like, I'll give you some numbers, man. We flew out with 400 guys. I mean, it started with a pool of about 700.
Yeah.
They take 75%. So we flew out with 400. 3 weeks later, it was 285. 3 weeks later, it was 185. We finished like 15 dudes.
Wow.
Some of those guys got rolled back and injured. We ended up graduating about 50 from that 400, but only about 15 guys made it all the way through.
Right. Fuck, dude.
Just number-wise. It's just mostly injuries, some failures, and you have a certain amount of failures you can have. You can like fail, 2 courses or something, and you get rolled class back, but you don't get failures again after you get rolled back once.
Yeah.
So you got to finish up.
So would you say it's more physically demanding or mentally demanding?
People will say, man, it's 90% mental. I think it's probably it's a good solid 50-50.
Okay.
Because, you have got to have some level of bone density. You got to have some level of being able to run fast enough and shit like that. There's just some guys that just couldn't run fast enough or swim fast enough, is what it is. But there was guys a lot better shape than me, way better athletes that quit.
Yeah.
They just
didn't want mentally there. Yeah.
Right? And not that some people just decide it's not for them, and that's also the piece. Like, they quit, but they're just like, dude, I don't want to do this.
Right.
Fair enough. Good on them.
Well, it's designed to do that, right? It's designed to push the people out that aren't meant to be there.
Yeah. They're like, man, you know what? I really want to do something else with my life. Like, this is just, I respect that, man. Man, don't stay in if it's not for you.
Yeah.
Right? 'Cause if you got to know this is all you want to do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Damn. So how long did it take you to get through to Hell Week? How long is that from when you first enter buds?
Yeah.
To Hell Week?
So you have it's about 6 weeks, 7 weeks in.
Okay. And how'd you do with the sleep deprivation?
Dude, that was a gnarly experience. That was hard as shit. It was, everybody starts hallucinating by like Wednesday. Because you're starting
in Hell Week, you're saying?
Yeah. Everyone. So you're about Wednesday night. Your chafe, man, is brutal. Dude, my dick was chafed so bad. Dead serious. They give you these things called cock socks, bro. These are the small details you don't know, but it's like a mesh netting that so it stops it from like rubbing. It's so bad.
Your dick doesn't fall off.
Yeah, it just gets so chafed, but like the inside of your legs, your like hips, because you're wearing like a life jacket sometimes, and so you're just like rubbed raw. And I mean, you're moving 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
You're running and shit. So I felt dudes fall asleep running.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was possible. You're standing up trying to eat. You'll just be standing there, and then you'll just hear like smash, crash. Just some like guy, all the plates like fall over, and you're like, were you sleeping? No. It's just like all the stuff's on the ground. So it's an interesting experience, but there's some real cool moments too. We do this around the world where you actually row a boat from Coronado out into the ocean, all the way around the bay, all the way down to Imperial Beach.
Damn. Okay.
So you're like, but you're rowing and you'll be like looking at downtown. And it's like you're, everything, and you're just like, whoa, dude. It's a trip. You have these like super surreal moments, and they're magical because you can't recreate them. But yeah, Hell Week was interesting because once you pass, dude, you got like 5 months left.
Right.
And they have this thing called post Hell Week depression.
Yeah.
Where everyone's elated, and then you start that next week and you realize you're like, oh, I have 5 more months, and it's not, you're just still getting beat down and like crushed.
Yeah. But it's not as hard as that first 6 weeks, is
it? It's pretty rough. I mean, they still smash you, man.
Yeah. Are you sleeping? You're able to...
that Hell Week's the only time you ever have that type of level of sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
But man, you're still up early running, and you could still fail stuff, and you're still getting totally beat down too. Like they call them beat down sessions. I mean, even in dive phase, you got tanks on your back. They're just crushing you with push-ups and stuff, dude. You're just being pushed to the max. And so that it starts to kind of weigh on you.
Right.
And then you hit another wicket. And that's probably something that's like business-wise too is, we talk about purpose and stuff. You hit these wickets.
Yeah.
And you're elated, and it kind of dies off.
Right.
Like that high starts to die off. And so you seek that next purpose. And I think that's important for guys to do is to keep pushing it, right? Set that next horizon quickly.
Right. Yeah. Mm. So you get through BUD/S, you get through all your training, and then what? You go to SEAL Team 7?
Yep. Yeah. So they pick you up. We went to language school for 3 months. I learned Arabic. Kind of
in 3 months, huh?
It's 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
So you're in like full immersion.
Totally. And that's how you learn.
Yeah. And it still is really difficult because there's so many different dialects.
Right.
But I had a pretty good handle on it, and I actually got paid by the Navy for 5 years to keep it up. So I would go back to courses for 5 years.
So did you have to go up north?
No, they had it here just for SEAL candidates.
Got it. Okay.
So they did it down in Imperial Beach. It was actually cool because we were not in uniforms. We were in a private thing. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I've just graduated and we're off the grid a little bit. But then we went to SEAL. I went to SEAL Team 7. Guys got to the respective teams, East Coast or here, and then just kind of started that piece. Get into a platoon. Mm-hmm. I was in Echo platoon. Get into a platoon, and then, hey, where are you going? What qualifications you doing? Start volunteering for school, start being there all the time. It was cool. That was a cool experience, is getting to a SEAL team. You're like, whoa, dude, you have your cage, your locker, and all your shit. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. What did it feel like when you graduated, when it's
Man,
done?
that was an unbelievable day.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember talking to everybody, and they're like, dude, there's no way you're going to get into the military, dude, let alone be a SEAL. And then I'm like getting my SEAL trident. And it was like a validating experience of like, I remember the first physical screening test I did as a civilian, like swimming, then fast forward, getting your SEAL trident, being like,
holy shit.
It was the first time I had ever set a goal like that and like completed it. Yeah, I went to college, I have a degree and stuff, but it was the first, like, I set this goal and then I did it. It was kind of, not that I had a chip on my shoulder, but I wanted to, I wanted to prove to myself, man, I could fucking do something substantial. And so that was really cool confidence wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely shifted gears there.
Yeah. So pride, right? I mean.
Yeah. You have like something to point to, you know, and you're actually that identity.
Yes.
Dude, I'm a fucking Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's like something that people can't take away from you. Like, I mean, you can get kicked out, get found out, but still did it, you know? And so that was like a huge piece of just my identity, man. I thought I needed, but I still am proud of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So when you were young, when you were a kid, like 7 or so, did you chase that identity when you were a kid, or where did that, because we off camera talked a little bit about identity and how you kind of chase this either title or like this sense of belonging or whatever it is that usually comes from something missing in childhood. So do you think that, I mean, is there anything related to that?
Possibly, man, dude. I know I got some trauma and shit, growing up probably, but I also just think that there's something to be said for tribal, man. We're tribal.
Yes.
We are animals, man. We're tribal, communal animals. Yeah. And so some people want to like extract that from us biologically. And I don't know if it's possible. Right? I know it's not possible. So I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing. I am cautious about this, about people making their sole validation from external sources.
Yeah.
That's the piece where it turns dangerous. You're like, if your whole identity's wrapped up in that and you have no self-worth apart from that because you're not doing all these like daily good habits and stuff, that's where it's dangerous because, man, the rug gets pulled. Who the fuck are you? And that's what I kind of experienced a little bit. So there's a
even after
fine
you
line.
became a SEAL?
Yeah, because once it got pulled away, I had this moment of like, well, who the fuck am I if I'm not a SEAL, right? Because I hadn't really built that self-worth up with good daily habits.
Right.
You know, I was kind of like filling that void. So I where did it come from? I mean, I sought it in sports also, right? Being the best player on the team, being the MVP, being, I was like always trying to find that. And dude, I never not played a sport. So because of that, right?
Yeah.
I was a football player, lacrosse player. Like I didn't have gaps in that. So when that got pulled away in college too, I experienced that again, right? There's these like moments in my life where I dealt with like these identity issues of who am I? If I'm not an athlete, what am I? And then I found it back in the SEAL teams, and then there's like these waves.
Yeah.
And it took me a while, and it was actually in the Foreign Legion in that barracks room when I realized there was nowhere else to go internationally. There was nowhere else to go to where I could find some like institution with enough reputation to actually. So that's when I started like that fixed. I had to look internal type process.
Did you ever think of going and doing contracting with the CIA?
Well, it wasn't possible for me because I got pulled. I mean, I would have had to. The mountain of paperwork would have been crazy.
But was that a thing in your mind, right? Because that's a title that you go be.
Well, it was, and I looked at So we had contacts, and I reached out to some people like, "Hey, man, what is the?" And they're like, "Dude, because I got kicked out with a general discharge, it would have been really difficult for me." Yeah, possible, maybe, but it would have been. But the next step was Ukraine. That was the next process. So I was already down the road of the Ukraine piece when I found this like two roads diverge in a yellow wood type thing where I was like, they're like, "Hey man, you have these Foreign Legion units here." Like, and I had all my contacts there, guys from Belarus and all these places. And I'm like, okay, well, then I realized, man, I was scared to go into social media and coaching and stuff because I was like fucking afraid of failing. Yeah. I was like, what am I going to do if I fail and like get a regular job? Like I don't know what to do. So I was like, I'll just go to Ukraine, somewhere I know. And then I realized, but I'm just running from myself. Right. I'm not going to be a better person there. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to make enough money. Yeah. Right. I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm like, dude, I'm like 38. Where am I going with this? Starting no life, no family, no nothing. And just keep going down this like mercenary road that, bro, it's not a happy road. Yeah. Guys in that world, it's a difficult, anybody who's watching, it's a challenging road, man. Your life is not like stable and good. And, it's contracts are up and then down, and then you're not working, and then you're working, and then your family's pissed, and then you're not around. It's like, and you're getting shot at, and it's dangerous as shit. Yeah. So it's like, I knew it was not it was a big decision for me to like close that door and go, okay, I'm going to do something else. Yeah. That was a big moment.
Yeah. It's almost like, you're in Antarctica and you're jumping from one iceberg to another and they're kind of drifting apart. Yeah.
But you're right. It was the identity piece. I was like, man, I have to be doing this badass thing and to like make myself feel legitimized. Like, oh, if I'm not, okay, I'm in Legion. Well, now I'm a, foreign fighter in Ukraine. That'll make, see, I'm tough. I'm cool. Like, it was that piece. I needed to keep pushing it. Yeah. But I knew it wasn't going to make me happy there. Right. I was like, just like, it will be like, just what I was experiencing in the Legion. Yeah. There was still this like more purpose. I knew I wanted to like help people and do some stuff and, and also just live a regular life, like being able to like live life on my terms for once.
How's the transition been? I mean, you're fresh out of the Legion. Like, how are you doing?
Dude, people were like, oh, dude, he's going, bro, it's been great.
Yeah.
Phenomenal, bro. Dude, phenomenal, man. Because I really rooted those habits, like those daily habits, deep. Like I rooted them so deep to where like even my girlfriend now is like, dude, I get up, early as shit. I kind of do my thing and just what it is. And it really helped because I had built the business before I got out.
Right.
That was like already going, man. I was in a barracks room making 20 G's a month. Right. Like from
doing fitness stuff.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I was just like my phone against my water, like making, doing my thing, making clients, doing all that stuff. So I had already got it flowing, which was hugely important because I was like, well, I'll start it when I get out.
Yeah.
And then I was like, why don't I just start it now? Which ended up causing me friction with the Foreign Legion.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So what did it look like going to, let's fill in the gap between you being a Navy SEAL, you getting out of the military, somehow not getting it was an honorable discharge, right?
General under honorable.
But it's not like you got kicked out, right? You still kind of.
Oh, I got kicked out.
But I mean, the when somebody looks at that, it's not like
it looks like an admin. It's an admin separation for lack of a better word, but it's but if they look at my return code, it's like an R4. So it's like, I was not getting back in, but because it technically would have been an OTH and other than honorable, but the CO of Team 7 was like, oh, this doesn't really deserve that. And so he had the ability to cap it one up, which was super, super helpful for me. And I really grateful as shit to him for doing that.
Well, and you went pretty far in the SEAL teams, right? I mean, you reached a height that not a lot of people reach.
Man, I was, 7 years and some change at Team 7. I had been, I had been there. I was going on my third deployment.
Right.
So it's like I had been around there for a little bit, enough time to, build a reputation and, better be around and be at the team, be at one team. Like I had been at Team 7 the entire time.
Right.
Yeah.
So you get out of the Navy, then what?
I went into working for a private residential developer here. Largest one in the United States on the largest project in the United States as like the number 2 guy.
Wow.
$750 million project, man. It was legit. I've always been good at like building relationships with people.
Yeah.
And maintaining them. So I had some good contacts. I was like, hey, I requested some sit downs with some people and I wanted to go into real estate. And that's what I did. And it was, from underground trenching to, final sales, I was dealing with a lot of it. And we did 19 million the first year. I was happy, man, but I just wasn't doing the right. I had some financial problems from like all the legal stuff I had been. So there was like that piece. And then I was also stacking on bad habits with Adderall and Xanax and weed and stuff every day, not at work. Yeah. But that's why I could lie to myself. I'm like, oh, I'm good. It was one of those.
Slippery slope.
Yeah. It was like, oh, I'm good. I'm like not doing it at work, right? It was after, but it was like, dude, I was sipping vodka in a water bottle at the gym after work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was kind of there. And being like, oh, I'm not working. That's what I always say. Be careful when you're negotiating. Yeah. Like, is this really normal?
Right.
And so I didn't know what was normal. And then I went into this cannabis space, kind of lateral move. That was kind of a tough move, but I was going through a breakup and stuff. And it was just this tumultuous time. And I just did it. And that was actually kind of a cool move.
Right.
At first, I learned a ton.
Right.
Professionally, but more bad habits, more, less control. And that's where it all kind of came crashing down. It was 2 years to the day from when I walked out of the United States military to where I was pretty much suicidal in my truck. 2 years to the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you up and moved to Hawaii, right?
Yeah. Mm.
And so tell the story about Hawaii and what happened there.
Man, dude, I was like on getting off fentanyl there was rough.
Yeah.
That's a rough.
Well, let's dive into fentanyl, right?
Yeah.
Like how, and this is in 2018?
Yeah, 2019.
When fentanyl's not even like it is now. People hear fentanyl, they're like, yeah, of course, that's what everybody's doing. But back then, it was not.
Yeah, man, it was something that kind of got a hold of me that I didn't even know I was addicted to until I tried to get off it.
Mm.
That's when I was like, whoa, because I hadn't missed the day.
Yeah.
I was doing it at night, and so it was just enough to where I never felt that like. And then when I tried to get off it, I was like, whoa, dude, this stuff had my hooks in me,
Yeah.
And so, I wasn't sleeping. I had to take myself to the emergency room. It was like, I was fucked up, man. And finally got out of the fog of that, but was still doing all this other stuff.
Right.
And was purposeless, was kind of waiting for the phone call to come that would change my life. And, okay, it'll all be right, and then it didn't come. It didn't come. It didn't come. Then the emails start getting cut. And then I'm like, marooned for lack of a better word. And I was like, still blaming everybody else, you know, so I can't believe this, and still doing that whole thing. And then I was like for lack of a better word, I was like psychologically breaking from the stress. Dude, I was like seeing Bible verses and things. And dude, it was like, I was on one, bro. And I was just like I was reading the book of Enoch, and like all this stuff was like happening to me. It was wild. I still don't even really know how to put my finger on that, but there was some shit going on. And it kind of just brought me to this point where I kind of came out of the fog, and I was like in the jungle in my truck going.
Literally in the jungle.
In the jungle, parked in the jungle with no gas, $6 to my name, going, oh, okay, this is how it happens, right? Yeah. You just come out of the clouds, and then, you know, I was like, oh shit, man, I'm like fucking homeless, right? I was here, now look what all my decisions, that's when slowly started to take ownership.
Right.
But that's what actually was dangerous, because I was like, oh, this is just all me. I was like, well, fuck me then. It was like, I'll just fucking end this, because that's kind of where I was getting. I was like, but I can't, I don't know how to fix this, bro. I'm fucked up, obviously.
Yeah.
So that was like, I wasn't sad. That was also the other piece. I wasn't like in my car crying. I was like matter-of-factly being like, all right, well, how do I fucking just like do this and not make it messy? Like I was like matter-of-factly going about stuff. And
scary place to be.
Yeah, so that's what made it scary. And so I was like trying to walk around in the jungle, dude, like straight no shirt, like no shoes, bro. I was going straight native, bro. I was going straight native. And, you know, I had that moment of clarity. I call it from God, dude. Yeah. Where it was just like, dude, being a pussy, you know, type thing. Grab your nuts, fix the thing. You know what you need to do. Because I had already started to kind of like, hey, man, if this doesn't get cleared up, I'll go in the Foreign Legion. I had thought that a couple months before.
Right.
And this was the moment where I went, okay, that's happening. So then, man, 8 days later, I was gone.
Did you, when you were growing up, how were you like in school?
Good. Man, I was like all elevated courses. I always, even in high school when I was partying and doing all that shit, I was still academic All-American. Yeah. You know, I always had good grades.
Do you feel like you operate better when your back is against the wall?
Unfortunately, yeah. So I'm trying to get out of that and try to not procrastinate on stuff and try to not put my back against the wall.
Right.
You know, because I don't think it's necessarily the healthiest way to live.
Yeah. The reason why I ask is when I was young, I was smart, but I hated school. Yeah. Fuck it. To this day, I hate school. And I love learning, but I hate like school, like the structure of like you have to go here and raise your hand and all that stuff. But I always waited until the exact last second, like literally like, you know, the end of the timer's running down, you know, in the movies where they're snipping a wire on a bomb and they barely get it. That was me putting in paperwork and doing all sorts of stuff, you know? And I feel like I operated better, and I always operate better under stress. Yeah. Right. So I'm always curious to see how people were when they were younger, and then how they are like.
Oh, I procrastinated on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was not doing stuff early. I was definitely doing every project late. I was always like that. I mean, I was in college. The class was almost over, and I was showing up hungover, putting my paper in. Yeah. Yeah. I was doing that for sure.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. Cause it's, I don't know what it is, but my mom always, growing up, she was always like, you feel like you have to chase this. Like it's a rush to have to fight your way out. You know, it like gives you like this sense of like, there's something to lose. Yeah. You know, when you turn your papers in on time, there's no rush. It's just easy. You know? So I don't know. I'm always just fascinated why people do that and what pushes people to excel and succeed. But so you show up in Paris, you book a one-way ticket. Yeah. Somebody had to give you the money to get there, right?
Man, I took two fast cash loans out, two $500 fast cash loans, which cost me like $4,000 for like $500, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, but I mean, when you look at like the return on investment from that, where it led you. Yeah. Crazy.
Dude, I legitimately, I was like, I have no money. Like, what am I going to do? And then I just was like, oh, dude, those fast cash loans. And I was like in my car, like Googling. I was like, all right, found two that would, because my credit was kind of fucked up at the time, right? And all this legal stuff. And I'm like, well, okay. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. And then I was like, well, I'll deal with that later. And I did. I dealt with it when I got out of boot camp and the Legion.
Yeah, that's crazy. So you show up in Paris, you go to the Legion, and you literally knock on a big metal gate, or what? How'd that go?
Dude, it's a trippy thing for people that don't understand what it actually is. Dude, there's no application.
Yeah.
There's no calling ahead. There's no figuring out. They have a website where you can kind of figure out what to bring.
Yeah.
But you literally go knock on this big iron gate and with one bag, and then they tell you, get up on the pole bar, or, you know, hey, get in here and give me your passport. And I didn't see that passport again for 3 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they don't want you to leave.
Well, that's part of the process is you don't get your passport back until you route this additional paperwork. And then you get your real name back because they give you a fake name.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. My first deployment, they give you a fake French passport with a fake name and all that shit, dude.
A French
you're
name?
called.
Or?
No, they know you're American and stuff. So you're born in America. They give you a French European social security number and all this shit. And you could say that name for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Get French citizenship and just, if you wanted. But
wow.
Then you're not coming back. You know, it's like complicated. Yeah. And I didn't need to do that anyway. So I routed additional paperwork, additional Interpol background checks and all that.
Well, because you're not doing this for the French citizenship like most people that are there.
Yeah, I didn't do it for that. Most people don't do it for French citizenship. I take that back. 50-50.
Okay.
50-50 probably. But I wasn't running from the law either. Right? I didn't have legal problems and stuff like that, which some guys do.
Right.
So I had no real reason to do that.
So you get in, you do some pull-ups, then what?
Yeah, man. And then you're a waiting game and you kind of look around and it is a trip because very few places in the world will you be sitting in a room this size where you hear like 20 languages being spoken.
Yeah.
Maybe the Olympics.
Yeah.
That's literally the only place. I hear Mongolian, Thai, Nepalese, like all these, very exotic.
Like being in a hostel somewhere.
Yeah, and it's even that, dude. I mean, it's a trip. You know, you're hearing Ukrainian, Russian, every language, and people are talking in their little groups.
Wow.
But you're waiting, and then you're processing. So it's medical checks, psychological interviews, like all these screening tests initially. And then you go to another battery of those, a little bit more in depth. And then you go deeper down the well, and they just keep chopping dudes for every reason. It take 1 in 15.
Right.
Generally, this is about the number.
So how do they give you a job? Like, is it similar to like you get an MOS?
Yeah, you pick.
Okay.
You pick for the most part. You pick your regiment. There's multiple regiments. There's parachute, mountain, all these engineering regiments.
Yeah.
Cavalry.
Yeah.
So you can pick. For the most part, you can pick. And then you can pick your specialty while there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what does a deployment look like in the French Foreign Legion?
4 to 5 months and scattered everywhere. So my first deployment was I went to the mountain regiment and lo and behold, they sent me to the jungle. So they sent me to South America and we're doing interdiction of gold mines and stuff like that, blowing up gold mines like daily. I was shocked at what's going on. Man, it's the Wild West down there, bro.
Yeah.
They are not fucking around down there. There is so much illegal gold mining, and I know why.
Yeah.
Why France is down there. There is a lot of fucking gold, man.
Yeah.
A ton. And you're also doing some interdiction of drug trafficking, checking boats, kind of. It's living in an outpost super deep in the jungle. I'm talking a 8-hour boat ride to a walk to you're deep, and then you're patrolling 14 days in even more. So you're sleeping in hammocks and all that shit.
Dude, that is,
that was a trip.
Right.
And then I also worked they sent us to the Russian border in Estonia with NATO a couple of years later.
Wow.
And then but also I didn't do this, but a lot in Africa too. For 26 countries in Africa speak French.
Yeah.
So France has had their piggies down there for a long time.
Yeah.
And they still do. They had Mali going on that kind of broke down, but Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, some in Angola, stuff like that. So France has their piggies down there all the time with the Foreign Legion.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So you leave, you come back to the States.
Yeah.
And now here you are, man. You've been back since, you said October? Or December.
Yeah.
Wow. Bro.
So I got back mid-December, bro.
It is. Wow.
Yeah, I got back 3 months ago to the day.
Wow.
90 days.
So you're hitting up podcasts and you're a fitness coach now. You're jacked. I don't know if you guys see this guy, but he is a absolute specimen.
Yeah, thanks. Work in progress. I got to dial in the macros even harder, like we talked about, though.
Yeah. So let's talk. I want to shift gears and I want to talk about somebody who's watching this who is miserable, who is not in shape, mentally fatigued, not wanting to do hard stuff.
Yeah.
but they're watching this,
Yep.
which means they want it. So tell somebody who's in that position, maybe somebody at rock bottom with drugs, fitness, whatever, you know, give somebody some advice.
Man, I always say this, man. I go, because I've been there, right? You lose your mojo. You feel like you're walking through quicksand. We've all been there. Things aren't. That is the universe telling you, you got to make some changes. And what are those changes? Man, it's just new information, a little new energy, a little outside accountability. Man, I've had to pay people for outside accountability too.
Yeah.
And I realized, man, I was like, I'm a SEAL Legionnaire. No one could tell me how to eat or train. But then I realized, dude, here's a simple question. Are you fucking happy?
Right.
Are you content? Are you just not? Well, guess what? You got to change something. Like we talked about, man, you've got to change something. Hit me up. Simple. I'll show you simple ways that I had to get right. That's the only way I know how to do it. And it's what I still do. Because it's the only, whenever I kind of get off it, my self-talk goes down. I start feeling that mojo getting lost again.
Yeah.
It's simple, dude. And it happens quick. When you start locking it on fast, dude, man, when you start supplementing correctly, when you start hydrating correctly, when you actually know what you need to do and you're not guessing.
Yeah.
It's the guessing that people do. They're like, well, I'm going to start to eat better. What do you mean eat better? How about eat fucking correct? Get somebody don't recreate the wheel, man.
Yeah. There's
a great saying by a buddy named Fraser Bailey. He said, collapse the time horizon on your goal. Dude, pay a little bit of money. You know how expensive the downstream costs are?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you can figure it out, but it's going to take 2 years.
Right.
Or you could do it in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, dude, do it. I know what I'm going to choose. Collapse the time horizon on your goals. And so that's what I always say, man, a coach, people go, I don't need a coach. Bro, fucking Michael Jordan had a coach.
Yeah.
The best swimmer in the world has a coach. The best everybody has a coach, man. It's that outside accountability because you can't see the holes in your game.
Yeah.
Get honest. Take that inventory. Are you happy or are you not? Well, then put your money where your mouth is and let's fucking fix it.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely true. And I've always said, like, find somebody that has what you want and do what they do. That's it. There's a simple formula. And it's not, whether it's business, whether it's fitness, finance, whatever, right? If you can just follow the formula that works, you will most likely have that thing. Unless it's, you know, I mean, you and I probably aren't going to go to the NBA if we go try out right now.
Yeah.
You know, I know I'm not.
But we get a lot better at basketball.
Yeah.
Right? If we got to see it, that's what I'm saying, man. If you're going to get a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Regardless.
Yeah. So where can people reach out to you? And by the way, if you're watching this, I'm going to tag all of his socials in the description below. So whether you're watching this on YouTube, you're listening on Spotify, go follow this man. This dude is, I'm telling you, he's blowing up right now and he's going to continue to blow up. And, you know, I'm really happy to have you on the show early because I think you're going to be a household name. I really do believe that.
Dude, Kevin, that means a lot, bro, because I respect, I looked at kind of what you're doing. I'm like, man, dude, this guy's going to do it because you got that positive outlook, that optimistic lens. I can tell just like how you flow, man. And I'm like, dude, I'm glad to have this connection, man, because this is all about relationships.
Yeah.
Dude, my whole thing's about building good relationships. That's why, man, people reach out to me. Dude, you're going to build a relationship with me. Dude, we have Zoom calls one-on-one. I have clients that are now my friends, right? That I've doing other businesses with. And there's so much that network is your net. Dude, it's so true.
Yes.
Man, build your network. Don't be the weak thread in the network, right? Strengthen yourself up. Have something to offer. All that connectivity, man, that lone wolf shit is for the birds, bro.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm just like, dude, I'm lone wolfing it. Dude, you're doing you, bro, all by yourself. Man, this is all about benefiting the community, benefiting your family, benefiting people around you, man. It's not about lone wolfing it, dude. That shit's bullshit.
Right.
Yeah, I don't get down with that lone wolf shit, man. It's like sometimes there is that period of isolation we all need to go through to kind of get right, but don't extend that and make that your MO.
Yeah.
Right, dude, get right, get isolated if you need to, come back, and then help the tribe, bro.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it's about. But if people want to get a hold of me, on my website, TaylorCavanaugh.com, you can just hit me up on the contact form. Everything goes to me. I don't have people running my stuff. So the emails go directly to me. I respond directly. So they're going to be communicating with me. On my Instagram, TCavOfficial. Also, hit me on the DMs and I'm Johnny on the spot with that. I try to be as fast as possible.
Bro.
And then on my YouTube, TCav TV, which I go into deeper principles and whatever, drop something in the comments. But I also have my contact information on there.
Yeah. So this is your sign. If you're at a point in life where you're mentally fatigued, if you're not fit, if you're not doing the things that you want to do, hit this dude up. I mean, look, man, if this is what you want, go get it. Follow what the person that has what you want has. That's it.
I love
Follow
that.
what they do.
That's what's up.
Dude, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, bro.
Nah, man.
Hey, also, the grills, bro.
Yeah.
What? I didn't, is that new?
No, I've had this, bro. I got this done overseas, man. Dude, I was chipping my teeth. I had a bunch of messed up, and I went and talked to a dentist. I was like, dude, well, how do I just reinforce the shit out of this? And
Yeah.
he's like, well, we could put metal in. I said, all right, blast them out with gold. He's like, you sure? I was like, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
He's like, you got the money to do it? I said, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, man. People ask me about wearing grills. I'm like, bro, I don't wear grills, bro.
Yeah.
These is permanent crowns, man.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do people talk about it a lot, or do they just ignore it?
Oh, no. People will be like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah. It's cool, but you pull it off though, man. Not many
it.
people can pull that shit off, dude.
No, I
So,
appreciate it, man.
yeah.
Dude, it just also, dude, it just feels good in my mouth. It's been, because I had like just chipping the bottom of my teeth. I don't know. And so I haven't had problems since.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, they're not going to crack, right?
They're not cracking, bro.
Yeah. Cool. Dude, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Go
I
follow
appreciate
this
you.
guy.